We're now breaking into regular programming. Governor Pritzker is taking the podium to give his daily briefing on COVID-19.
Thank you very much for joining us again today. I'm here with, of course, the Illinois Department of Public Health Director, Dr. Ngozi Ezike, and we're joined today by Illinois State Treasurer Michael Frerichs, by our Director of the Department of Revenue, David Harris, and by Michael Jacobson, the President of the Illinois Hotel and Lodging Association. Our State Comptroller, Susana Mendoza, was unable to join us. She's caring for her elderly mother, and both are doing well, but adhering to my order to stay at home. As this crisis has evolved, my team and I have worked to protect our residents, our workers, and our small businesses as they navigate this extremely challenging time. To keep people from losing their homes, last week I suspended residential evictions in every county in Illinois. And I also directed additional resources to organizations across the state that protect our homeless population by providing food and shelter. I ordered a moratorium on utility shutoffs for residents who can't pay their bills during this period. I expanded and cut the red tape for state unemployment eligibility for those impacted by COVID-19. I waived late filing fees and interest on sales tax payments to give more than 24,000 bars and restaurants statewide a 2-month reprieve. And we ensured that Illinois' small businesses from every county are eligible for coronavirus disaster assistance loans of up to $2 million. In addition to those measures, today I am proud to announce an important new measure to support our residents and most small businesses and to soften the immediate economic impact of this moment. Illinois will delay our tax filing deadline from April 15th to July 15th, aligning our tax day with the federal government's and giving our millions of taxpayers 3 additional months to file their individual returns. Refunds will continue to be distributed in a timely fashion. There's more. My office and the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity are working closely to find ways to expeditiously direct our existing small business programs to those experiencing the greatest need. By Friday, our small businesses will be eligible for a share of $90 million in state emergency assistance through 3 new programs. First, all of our small businesses outside of Chicago, that's businesses with fewer than 50 employees and under $3 million in 2019 revenue in every industry, are eligible for our new $60 million Illinois Small Business Emergency Loan Fund, allowing up to $50,000 loans with 5-year low-interest repayment terms. Required loan payments won't begin for 6 months, offering crucial time for business owners to begin recovering from the economic impact of COVID-19. DCEO, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, in partnership with our Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, has established a loan loss reserve of $20 million to back up the financing provided by our state chartered banks. I want to thank the Illinois Bankers Association and the Community Bankers Alliance for their partnership in launching this program. Accion, a global leader in nonprofit microfinance, will help administer this program and assist applicants through this process. And applications will be available by the end of the week on the DCEO website and also on our main coronavirus website at coronavirus.illinois.gov. Our second small business program also focuses on our suburban and downstate communities, specifically on areas with low to moderate income populations. We're launching a $20 million downstate small business stabilization program, which will provide emergency grants of up to $25,000. These are grants of $25,000 to small businesses that are being served by DCEO's Office of Community Development. And lastly, our hospitality businesses have experienced some of the most significant hardships during this crisis. To help address the significant challenges of our bars and restaurants and small hotel companies, DCEO retooled existing funds to offer support to our state's hospitality industry through this crisis. Our new Hospitality Emergency Grant Program will offer $14 million to help hotels, bars, and restaurants support their payroll and rent, as well as job training and technology for operations like pickup and delivery, which for now have become central to many restaurants staying open. These grant applications are live starting today and can be found online again at coronavirus.illinois.gov or on DCEO's website. Hospitality industries, hospitality businesses in every corner of our state are eligible to apply. And the IHLA president, Michael Jacobson, who has also been an incredible partner to our Illinois Emergency Management Agency in reviewing hotels for possible emergency use, will talk more about the importance of these programs and how you can become eligible or apply for them in just a few moments. In addition to these new small business supports, my team has been working hard on behalf of business owners and homeowners to work with private entities that are beyond the state's authority to make sure that we're alleviating some of the financial stresses that people are encountering. My Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity Director and I are asking all the banks that administer Advantage Illinois loans, which support hundreds of small businesses throughout the state, to modify their loan structures through either a 3-month deferral of payments or 6 months of interest-only payments. DCEO has pre-approved all such modifications in order to fast-track those benefits to our residents as quickly as possible. For homeowners, we've heard a lot from people asking for mortgage assistance. Across Illinois and across the nation, mortgages are owned by the federal government or institutions like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, as well as others. I've asked each of those federal institutions to offer all borrowers multi-month forbearance to reduce the strains of this period and offer millions of Americans financial relief. They've offered this not only to Illinoisans now, but to qualified mortgage holders nationwide. Please contact your mortgage servicer or Fannie Mae directly for more information. On a similar note, we've sent letters to the 3 national credit bureaus asking them not to punish people's credit ratings for the instabilities of our time. The enduring impacts of COVID-19 on Illinoisans' lives and livelihoods will be significant. So we must take every action possible to help people all across our state. I want to talk for a moment about the federal relief bill. Overnight, Democrats and Republicans working together in Washington struck a deal on a $2 trillion rescue package, with the Senate set to vote today. For days, I've been speaking directly with Senators Durbin and Duckworth and a half a dozen of our nation's governors, as well as Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and members of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's staff about how best to serve our small businesses and working families here in Illinois. Critically important to working families across our state, this deal provides a direct payment of $1,200 to every American worker who makes under $75,000 annually, with a phase out up to annual salaries of $99,000. Families will also receive an additional $500 per child. This agreement is also slated to significantly extend federal unemployment both in benefits and in length of time, including expanding the program to include independent contractors, freelancers, and gig economy workers like Uber and Lyft drivers. It invests $150 billion directly in state and local governments and $100 billion in our national health care system, as well as billions in grants and loans and other programs for small businesses, including guaranteed loans for those businesses that don't lay off workers. I'm incredibly grateful for the time and the zeal that our congressional partners, especially Senators Durbin and Duckworth, dedicated to representing Illinois in these negotiations. This was a record-breaking emergency relief package and much needed for our state. As soon as Congress formally passes and President Trump signs this legislative package, my team and I will move as quickly as possible to bring every eligible dollar home to Illinois. In the meantime, we at the state level are continuing to do everything that we can to deliver our own emergency aid promptly and fairly. Finally, I just want to say that I know that there are people all across our state that are making real sacrifices by adhering to our stay-at-home order, which is in its 4th day. And I know that for those of you able to remain home, it feels like you've been there forever. I want to express my sincere gratitude to all of you. The sacrifices that you are making are saving lives, truly. I've also said a lot about the amazing work that our doctors and nurses and our first responders are doing, taking a risk every day, going to work to protect us. But I also want to recognize our grocery store workers, our custodians, and our Metra and PACE and CTA workers, the factory workers who are producing essential medical equipment and the food on the grocery shelves, and the warehouse workers and truck drivers who make sure that our goods get to their destination. They are some of the unsung heroes in this fight, those who do the work behind the scenes to keep this state safely moving forward. And now I'd like to introduce our IDPH Director, Dr. Ngozi Ezike. Doctor.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you for all that the team is doing to help bridge Illinoisans as we get through this pandemic. These daily updates are critical in keeping Illinois informed. As difficult as it is to hear the news of more cases and deaths each day, I do believe sharing this information will keep us focused and remind us of why we all need to continue doing the right things. Doing the right thing will eventually lead us to these numbers decreasing and eventually ending this current pandemic. Today, we are reporting 330 new cases, including 3 deaths. These are now affecting 35 counties across our state. Unfortunately, the pandemic in the United States and, of course, here in Illinois will get worse before it gets better. We understand that. We have seen Illinois cases in all ages, and we know we'll continue to see more cases in all settings. We've provided extensive guidance and are working tirelessly with these nursing home facilities on infection control practices, individual and group monitoring, isolation and quarantine, and health and medical care. But we will see cases continue to grow, which is why it's so important that we all take action to reduce the number of people who are infected and shorten the duration of this pandemic. Many questions are asked about why some people are not able to get tested. Let's review the process. Again, it still starts with your clinician. The clinicians will evaluate you. That should start with a phone call. If you feel you need to talk to your doctor about your symptoms, call first. You can do a telehealth visit where you are explaining what your temperature may be, what your symptoms are, and in fact, they may be compatible with COVID-19. Your clinician will assess your symptoms, and based on the severity, they can determine whether it's even useful to test or not. The majority of people who don't have severe underlying conditions will probably not need to be tested and will not have a test recommended, but instead will be told to stay home. The guidance now is to stay home for at least 7 days or 72 hours after your symptoms and fever abate, whichever is longer. But other considerations that may guide you to actually get testing are issues such as the occurrence of local community transmission in your jurisdiction. Clinicians are strongly encouraged to test for flu or other causes of respiratory illness. But the highest priority for testing of COVID-19 is for hospitalized patients and symptomatic healthcare workers and patients with severe underlying conditions that make them highest risk for severe complications, including death. And the final priority is, of course, healthcare workers and first responders, and the critical infrastructure workers who also are symptomatic. Again, you should not be tested in the absence of symptoms. No one is immune to this virus, not even if you are healthy, but not everyone necessarily needs a test. This virus is affecting every race and every ethnicity. Right now, we know of the counties that are involved, but we know that the number of counties will grow as well. Continue to stay home and continue to practice social distancing. Protect yourself, protect your loved ones, and protect your entire community by following these same instructions you've been hearing every day. Wash your hands for 20 seconds with soap. Cover your cough or sneeze. Stay home. Clean frequently touched surfaces. Together, we are protecting all of Illinois and decreasing the number of fatalities from this extraordinary event. And now I will summarize the comments in Spanish. Estas reportes diarios son criticales para mantener informado al Estado. Los tomo muy en serio. Las noticias de más casos y muertes cada día son pesadas. Creo que compartiendo esta información nos ayudará a hacer las medidas por controlar el virus. Hoy estamos reportando 330 nuevos casos, incluyendo 3 muertos en 35 condados en Illinois. La pandemia en Estados Unidos y Illinois se pondrá malo antes de mejorar. Esa es la realidad. Vemos casos de COVID-19 en Illinois de todas edades. Veremos más casos en asilo de ancianos, incluyendo muertes. Vamos a ver casos en cárceles. Estamos trabajando con todas las poblaciones sobre prácticas de control de infecciones y atención médica. Pero vamos a ver casos en estos lugares. Por eso es tan importante que todos tomamos medidas para reducir la cantidad de personas infectadas y cortar la duración de esta pandemia. Los médicos tienen un proceso sobre quién debe hacerse la prueba. Si tienes síntomas graves y eres mayor de edad, se le hará una prueba. Si tienes síntomas baja y eres joven y sin muchos problemas médicos, debes quedarse en casa. Protégese, protege su familia y protege su comunidad. Juntos protegemos a Illinois. Thank you. And with that, I will turn it over to Treasurer Frericks.
Thank you, Doctor. Good afternoon. First, I would like to commend Governor Pritzker for his leadership in this time of crisis. For more than 2 weeks, he stood before Illinois residents every day to provide the latest updates in our battle against COVID-19, especially when the news itself might not have been comforting. Leadership is about making tough decisions and accepting responsibility. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
Let me add thanks to the first responders and healthcare workers who are on the front lines of our efforts to contain the pandemic. We need to stay home so they can stay at work. And I want to thank the grocery store workers, the postal workers, delivery drivers, the men and women who continue to pick up our garbage and recycling, and all the people who are risking their health to keep performing the vital services that keep civilization going. They may not make the headlines, but they are doing the Lord's work just the same. When you see them, thank them. Next, I want to thank the media. This is a difficult story to cover for many reasons. And presenting information to a certain segment of the public more easily swayed by Facebook and social media is an incredibly daunting task. We are all concerned about the economy. for our workers and small business owners who have been displaced through no fault of their own, and for our efforts to create a soft landing so that we can push through this pandemic and return to a growing economy that lifts all boats. However, make no mistake, our decisions should be guided by medical experts and science, not by television talking heads and Twitter posts. As the state treasurer, I'm the state's chief banking and investment officer. I want to thank my team, almost all of whom have been working remotely for the last 10 days. Our state investment portfolio is about $14 billion, about the same amount it was late last year when news of the virus began emerging. The amount is the same because state law prohibits investing any portion of the $14 billion state portfolio in the stock market. Let me repeat that. State law prohibits investing any portion of our state portfolio in the stock market. We have taken steps to reduce volatility, preserve capital, and maintain liquidity in our state portfolio. This includes reducing the average length of our investments. For our small business owners and workers, the State Treasurer's Office has launched a bridge loan program to help them push through these uncertain times. We have made $250 million available to banks and credit unions across our state at an historically low interest rate of almost zero. We agreed to deposit $250 million from the state's portfolio in increments of $1 or $5 million with financial institutions across the state. In turn, they have agreed to turn around and use the money to help small businesses and nonprofits pay rent, purchase supplies, and to make payroll. Our goal is simple. We understand business has slowed. We do not want businesses to close forever. We want them to be able to make payroll and pay their own bills. It is easier to ramp up a business that is struggling than a business that has shuttered. If your business or nonprofit is interested, please contact your bank or credit union and ask them if they are participating in the State Treasurer's program. On a smaller scale, last week my team issued emergency rules for our unclaimed property division. We raised the ceiling for our Fast Track program from $500 to $2,000. As a result, we've been able to push out nearly $3 million in additional unclaimed property to more than 3,000 people across our state in just the last week. This is their money that will help them to pay the rent, buy groceries, or pay the gas bill. Finally, we have rolled over $200 million in investment notes or loans to the state comptroller to pay medical bills. My office can invest up to $2 billion in the state of Illinois' bill backlog at a reduced market-based rate as opposed to the 9 or 12% late payment interest rate penalty. During this time of need, this authority not only saves money, it gets more cash out the door to our healthcare providers. We are continuing our discussions with the comptroller and the Governor's Office of Management and Budget about ways to support the state's cash flow using the legal tools we already have. We are just beginning to learn what is coming out of Congress. And I'm glad to hear that the legislation may include efforts to assist state and local governments, including $150 billion in appropriations and some increased flexibility for the Federal Reserve to provide assistance. But I fear it may not be enough if we do not listen to the medical experts. COVID-19 is serious business. It preys on us all. What it does not do is differentiate between liberals and conservatives, Republicans or Democrats, or Chicago or downstate residents. We will all be better off if we remember that. So I would like to now turn it over to the president of the Illinois Hotel and Lodging Association, Michael Jacobson.
Thank you, Treasurer. I would also like to applaud Governor Pritzker for his incredible leadership over the past several weeks as it relates to COVID-19. Hotels throughout Illinois are among the most impacted industries when it comes to economic decline over the past month. Hotel properties that were originally projecting to have an occupancy rate in the 70% range are now in the teens or even single digits. The damage is worse than the impacts of 9/11 and the 2008 recession combined. Unfortunately, with that level of decline, there's a human impact when it comes to the tens of thousands of layoffs that we've seen in our industry in just the past several days. We expect that number to hit more than 120,000 total layoffs in the coming weeks. Small businesses that operate our hotels are hurting and deciding every day whether or not to close their hotels altogether. Our employees are hurting and hoping that they can just keep their job. That is why we commend the governor for announcing this new fund dedicated to providing grants to small hotel owners in an effort to retain as many staff as possible. These relief funds will provide critical resources to hoteliers to avoid as many layoffs as possible at their property. I encourage any small hotel owner to explore their eligibility and apply online at coronavirus.illinois.gov. As the governor mentioned, that application process is now posted online, and hotel owners can explore their eligibility as of today at coronavirus.illinois.gov. We know that our work is not complete yet, and we have a lot of work cut out for us, especially as we look at the long-term recovery. But this is an important first step in trying to save our industry, who historically is one of the most significant economic engines, employers, and tax generators for the state of Illinois. Separately, I also wanted to thank the Illinois Emergency Management Agency for their partnership in recent weeks to pair Illinois hotels who have volunteered their properties to be used for emergency housing during the COVID-19 crisis with local health departments. So far already, we have identified nearly 20,000 rooms throughout the state to be used for housing for healthcare workers, first responders, and hospital overflow. I am truly honored and humbled to represent an industry that is all about people helping people, and that's during normal times. That couldn't be more the case right now. Our hoteliers throughout the state of Illinois have stepped up and answered the call of duty in a time of crisis to open their doors to some of the most vulnerable and at-risk citizens in our state. Governor, thank you for your understanding of the role that hotels and tourism play in our emergency response, as well as our state's economy. We stand ready to continue the work ahead with your team to continue the recovery from these unprecedented times. I'll now throw it back to Governor Pritzker for a question and answer.
Thank you very much, Michael. And just before I begin, I want some of you, all of you, to recognize somebody who has been here nearly every day, someone who does an invaluable service for all of us. He occasionally gets a reprieve, as he has just now, but I want you all to know that Michael Albert, who has been providing a sign language interpretation for us, is somebody that we've relied upon to help us get a message out to people all across our state, and he's invaluable to all of us. So, Michael, thank you for everything that you do. And not to forget that you occasionally have somebody who helps you out. Thank you very much for all that you do, and all of the others who have provided substitute services for every day when Michael gets a little bit tired. Some of us are verbose, so he he's hardworking, and I'm sure that this is a lot of exercise for anybody. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions from people who are in the room, the reporters, and then, of course, those who are online.
Governor, can you give us an update on what's...
Governor Pritzker, now moving to questions. Just to recap some of the big points that the governor made, probably the biggest that will impact most people across the state is that the governor is delaying state tax filing to align with federal tax filing deadlines. So that means that it is moved to July 15th. So the state and federal tax filing deadline is now moved from April to July 15th. 1,800 cases of coronavirus now in Illinois. In 35 counties, 3 more people have died, bringing the death toll to 19. Dr. Ezike reiterated today that the outbreak is likely to get worse before it gets better. We now know that 2 corrections officers and 1 inmate at Stateville Correctional Center in Will County have tested positive for coronavirus. And lastly, by Friday, the governor giving some good news to small businesses, saying that they will be have access to at least a share of some $90 million through a variety of programs. The state treasurer spoke today. The comptroller is also involved, at least on the tax filing side of this. And there's more information, of course, on all of these programs and all of this information that was shared during this news conference today. And that'll be available on WCIA.com. But again, a lot of information shared today, including those more than 1,800 deaths, more than 1,800 confirmed cases, rather, in 35 counties, 3 additional deaths today. The death toll is now at 19 in Illinois. And now that there are 3 cases at Stateville Correctional Center, 2 corrections officers and 1 inmate testing positive. But the big takeaway probably from today is that the state has delayed its tax filing deadline into July. That will do it for us now. Of course, more information on WCIA.com, and we will see you again here at 5 o'clock for the WCIA 3 News at 5. For now, I'm Paul Cicchini. We will bring you back to your regular programming.